I really like the fall weather. I like it being a little cool in the mornings. The grass is growing well and the cows are really happy, the bugs are gone. It's a good time of year to be grazing. I love seeing the animals harvesting all of their feed and they're just interacting with the land as it should be. What I don't like about fall is that it means my grazing season's going to be coming to an end.
There's never an end of the year in farming, but if any time is the end point of the season, it would be the late fall. The team is changing a lot, the level of activity is changing, and it is really a transition time between the growing season and the quieter winter when we shift into planting mode.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, look at that.
Fall is one of the times that people think of as the heavy harvest season. On this farm, since we have a CSA, we're harvesting all summer long, but I really know we're coming into fall when things like the big onion harvest, the big garlic harvest, the winter squash, all of the root vegetables, having more pressure to get things out of the ground before it freezes and before the winter.
Every time you go out to the field, a few more things are gone, turned under, cut down, and it starts to get a little bit empty out there. Some of the really late crops might actually stay standing for a while, but we eventually do mow them down so that the green part ends up covering the soil as a little blanket.
One of our goals over the winter is to keep as much of that soil covered as possible, so that could mean that we plant cover crops like rye that holds the soil in place, and then in the spring we till that in, and that's how we get ready for planting. In our hoop houses, fall is a big planting time for spinach, carrots, scallions, and a few other greens, crops that we'll either harvest before the winter or that will survive the whole winter in the hoop house.
Once the harvest is done, it's time to clean up the orchard and get it ready for winter, and then also get it set and prepped for spring. So I take down all the traps I've been using to monitor for pests and diseases. Then I reapply the tree guards that I've blown down over the course of the season. Then I do mulching around the trees for weed suppression for the spring. In the vineyard, what I do is take care of the irrigation lines, blow them out, drain them, so they don't freeze over winter, and make sure that everything going into winter is looking strong.
We grow a few different grains for human and animal feed. 2 different heritage wheats, and made those into flour and sold those in our farm store. We also grow a Polish variety of rye called Danko and some oats. The other grain that we grow is an open pollinated corn called Wapsi Valley. In order to use our grains for livestock feed, we have to grind them up, and for the dairy cows, that means we grind a load every week all year long. For the laying hens, they don't eat as much, so we only need to grind a load, which is about 2,000 pounds, maybe every 2 to 3 months.
Our sheep are 100% grass-fed, and so they're going to be grazing on all of the hay that we've put up this summer. We're going to bring that out to them a little bit each day, and they're going to continue on that grass-fed diet all winter long. In the fall then, we bring both groups of sheep down to the barn and recombine them. The ram is going to go back with the ewes for the breeding season. Most sheep are seasonal breeders, and that means that they come into heat at a certain time of the year, largely dependent on day length. And that's why we wait to bring the ram back in with the ewes until now.
This pasture goes all the way back to those trees. So they spend almost the entire growing season just going back and forth through here. It takes a very long time to get from two to these two are twins, and then there's little number 5.
Our educational mission really has grown in the past a couple years, but it was always here.
Before the beginning of the 3rd growing season, we burned it, and then that season we grazed it.
This year we did a pasture walk looking at the prairie grazing we're doing to learn how other farmers could incorporate native prairie pastures onto their farm.
Continue down this way.
When we've hosted pasture walks here, I think what's exciting is you have people with all different experience levels. Farmers who've been doing this for 30 years and are now retired. You have farmers that are just starting. You have neighbors that are curious. You have young people who want to get information about how to graze and how to manage their land. And the farmers within the group can share stories, examples, and solutions.
Hello.
Gwenyn Hill really thinks about inviting our neighbors and friends to the farm very differently. It's not just a place to be entertained with the icons of farming. We really want people to see really what happens on a farm, a working farm, a farm that's producing food for people.
Keep going.
Conserving water, clean water, building soil, maintaining ecosystems for wildlife. We try to have a conservation or at least a farm story theme. I mean, Oktoberfest, what's that about? It's not about a beer tent.
There's almost an oak for every situation you might encounter in your own landscape.
Oktoberfest is the chance to really bring the farm to the community. We brought in different speakers talking about the importance of oaks and oak savannas, but we also had a lot of different conservation groups here offering information. People were walking from table to table just to find out, what can I do? What information is out there?
Oktoberfest was really fun this year. We had a couple of the calves that my 2 boys raised.
You want to come in here?
And I really liked seeing all the kids in the pen with the calves, crawling around them like my kids do. And it gives them a sense of growing up on a farm or being on a farm. And there's only so much you can get from looking at it from afar.
Of course, there's the excitement of just having the farm animals here and the wagon rides, which everybody so appreciates. But there's definitely a deeper message about what we're doing here.
We are very invested in the Organic Farm Manager Apprenticeship program, where people who are interested in either being a farm manager or maybe even having their own farm come and work on the farm for 2 years and complete coursework over the winter.
I chose agriculture after 12 years in the Marine Corps because there was one thing that kind of stood out to me in a lot of those areas that were hurting around the world. Agriculture and our food systems really tie all of us together.
The apprenticeship culminates many lessons that you're going to learn in a 2-year span that could take you countless years of bopping around to different farms to learn, or hoping that you land on the right farm to learn them. You know that you're coming here to learn this specific set of skills and that your educator is competent at teaching them. And after working here for a year, I knew that Linda and Liz were the people I wanted to learn from.
I don't think that young people realize that this is a possible path. And by having the apprentice program here in conjunction with a living, breathing farm, we are showing them that it is a possibility.
I've met a lot of my objectives in the last 2 years, but I've also changed quite a few things just based on what I learn every single day. I've adopted more of a long-term mindset. It's a long-term project. There's a lot that goes into it, and I'm in it for the long haul. So,
but things that
this summer we had a few gleaning groups that were connected with our local food pantry. And one of them was the Waukesha High School boys soccer team. The purpose of those groups is to come to the farm and harvest things that we might not have time to harvest, or they're not quite up to our quality standards, but they're still edible, they're still good to eat. They actually go out into the fields, see how things are growing, and learn how to harvest them.
We always knew that part of what we needed to do is to educate people why a farm like ours needs to exist, why it's important there's a farm in your neighborhood. And so we're educating students in 8th grade, high school, where they're really starting to form their opinions about how things work, where food comes from, what's a farm all about. Without people understanding the why, maybe the what we're doing is less important.
Fall is a little bit of a bittersweet time. I love it because there's a lot of activity with all the big harvests and big team projects, but then that team starts to shrink a little bit as the fall goes on. Benji, Ezekiel, Miguel, and Adrian go back to Mexico. Some of our other seasonal workers don't work here in the winter. All this hustle and bustle and activity, it starts to quiet down, which I really like, but then I look around and I'm like, wait a minute, where did everyone go?
The fall is really my favorite time of the year because there is a little bit of a breather, but also it's because we start to celebrate food in such a special way. And there have been many Thanksgivings where almost everything on the table I had a hand in growing. You know, we do a lot of work to produce this food, but it's just sort of a miracle that what we do in a year can provide with so much. It's a real opportunity to take a breather, look back, be grateful, and really enjoy what we've done through food and family and friends.